Hello everybody, welcome back. Here I said here, brand new video, just like I do every other Friday with these build videos. I'm glad you guys are liking them. I'm doing something a little different this time. Instead of doing a fully functional base, I'm doing more of an aesthetic base that you would see as like a waypoint or like a point of interest on a mod or something of the sort. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll jump right in. All right, so I built this one just south of the way station in the Sten Desert. This one's to the right of the area where the Band of Bones encampment is, and I built it there just because it's a really flat, open space. And in my mind, I'm kind of creating like an arena area, right? So this would be an area where like the Shek would go as like a proving grounds, right? So they obviously they prove themselves in battle, but maybe necessarily they don't always prove themselves out in like open warfare or like hunting down giant beasts, and instead Shek like to prove their mettle between each other as well. And we know that they do that. They challenge each other all the time. That's how Asada became ruler over the Shek. Is by challenging Shagger. So we know that they do that, and I like the idea that they would have like a formal area where like these combatants could meet, and everyone else could watch and all that stuff too. And it would be like this big, almost like sporting event of sorts. So first things first is building the arena itself. Now, obviously, because the arena is an enclosed space where these Shek are going to be fighting at. I wanted the wall facing inward, and that actually presents the first initial challenge, which I'll get to here in a minute. I needed to make sure that everything was lined up properly because, again, I'm super, if you guys haven't gotten it by now, I'm super, super anal about the way that the walls are and the symmetry and all that stuff. And specifically, I like having those full segments of wall instead of the individual, like, tiny segments. And in order to do that, I need to have everything needs to be lined up properly. It needs to be right in the middle. It's got to be like really, really tight and symmetrical. Otherwise, it's going to drive me nuts. So I had this really cool idea to basically put the wall on the edge of the station house here. And then actually I'm going to, and I'll do it here in a minute, instead of using the ramp that comes standard with the station house, I'm going to use some of the in-game stairs. I tried originally looking for like ramps and stuff, but I didn't like the way any of those looked. And they always kept trying to snap on to some of the nodes that are maybe on the outside. And so what I ended up doing was taking these stairs from the bridges section, and these ones did not work because they didn't have a texture, but I do find other stairs that work. I'm not sure why the texture wasn't working on that. It was not great. It should be in there. I'm sure it's just a mod conflict, but I ended up taking a set of stairs that I have and placing them down, and it works out very well. No pathfinding issues. I know you guys are always asking me about pathfinding and if everything works. After all of these videos are done, and before, like after they're done being recorded and prior to me doing the voiceover and the editing and all that stuff, I always go through and check for pathfinding issues, and I try to address any ones that come up in the videos. So if something doesn't work in terms of pathfinding, I'll usually tell you in the video that I had a hard time getting it. Like, for example, in the Lagoon platform Citadel that I did a while back, I was not able to get to those towers that were on the stairs going up to the second level, and that's just because, the way the pathfinding of the nav mesh worked. But I'll always tell you guys if the nav mesh isn't working. So, just bear in mind, I've just been getting a lot of questions recently about the pathfinding. Pathfinding works. I test all that stuff, and if they don't, I'll talk about it in the video. So I got those ramps up. Those worked totally fine. And this was where the real struggle started to set in. I came into this without having any real plan. And so I started dropping these ramps to get up there because, fans have to be able to get up into the stands, right? My idea is that like the Shek would be up in the stands and they'd be cheering and they'd be having a great time and, placing bets or whatever they want to do. But I also needed to make sure the outside was defended to a degree. Otherwise, it's just literally like an open field with like this wall that anybody can get up on and this giant like cage of in sort. Like it's not really. It didn't work, right? And so there has to be some kind of external thing going on around the arena itself. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to encase the arena inside a wall here. And as I was doing so, I was trying to make sure that there was an even number of walls, or like a symmetrical number of walls on either side, so that way everything would look even and good. And shocker, it didn't work. For whatever reason, it didn't work, and that was not acceptable to me. Everything seemed straight. It seemed like it was the way it needed to be, but something, you know, or straight enough that it shouldn't have been a problem. But so I ended up scrapping that initial wall idea, and then I had this really, you know, I thought about maybe dropping some buildings on the side and maybe decorating around this thing, so it'd almost be like the buildings are directly off of the stands. But I, you know, rather quickly nixed that idea. It just didn't seem like it was going to work. You know, I looked at a couple buildings, and I briefly considered doing either like buildings off of the stands, or maybe like bridges and having the city, or like not even the city, but like the surrounding buildings and shops and stuff kind of raised off the ground and connected by bridges. But none of that stuff really seemed feasible. So you know, this early part of the build was a lot of me breaking stuff and putting it back together, trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. So I disconnected the walls here because I had this really cool idea where, like, you know, we're having an arena, we need to have an entrance for either combatant on either side, right? And that was my initial thought. And so I'd line this up in the middle, and this wall segment, you're going to see me play with this for a while, like a couple of minutes. At least it was a couple of minutes for me. It's going to be faster for you, thankfully, because I sped it up. But and the same thing kept happening that happened on the other wall, where I would lay down the wall and it wouldn't. I accidentally deleted that segment of wall there because, you know, that happens on occasion, but no big deal, easy fix. I kept laying down segments of wall, right? And I would have everything centered and it would look like it was supposed to be fine, but one side would not be the right type of wall. It would be those individual wall segments. As I've said on literally every build video that I've done, I hate those individual wall segments probably 99% of the time. The only time I don't is when it's literally like I only need that one segment. The rest of the time it doesn't look good. Now here, I thought about maybe letting it go because both sides would have been symmetrical here, but I couldn't because there was a gap in the wall, and the pathfinding would have absolutely led to people being able to get through the wall. So I tried to adjust it to fix it so there wouldn't be a gap in the wall, and it created one wall that was the other size. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I can get it so that both walls are like that. Nope, can't be done. Could be done. Tried it. I sat here for, again, this is like 250 times speed. Okay, I sat here for a really, really good amount of time trying to make this work, and it just didn't work. It was incredibly frustrating. I tried a lot of different ideas. I tried maybe building the wall first and then connecting the gate to that, and then building the second wall off of that, so that way maybe I could get the shapes, and then I just put the gate in there and all would be good. And it didn't fit. It didn't fit right. It was not correct. It had that weird like overlap. You can see there in the corner there was like a little overlap where it stuck out, and it didn't look right. It looked janky. And so then I was like, well, maybe I'll just put the gate a little closer, but you know, ultimately that idea didn't pan out for me as well. And you know, I spent a lot of time trying to do this, and that's what a lot of these builds are. You know, when you're building, especially when you're not doing like a functional base per se, and you're trying to do something that's a little bit more niche like this, there is a lot of trial and error. Again, I just tried to drop the wall there, and it came out with the one that wasn't the full wall segment, and it looked like garbage. Couldn't stand it, so I said screw it, and I went back to the full walls. So we dropped those back down, and we're pretty much right back where we started. So a lot of these builds are trial and error, especially when you're doing like these more niche builds where it's not like a normal functional base, right? Like I'm not building a city where necessarily people live, and that was kind of the goal here. I didn't want a city where people would live, you know. This was annoying too. I kept getting it in the right spot when it was initially connecting to the node, and then it would jut it forward, and so it wouldn't be even. It was a whole thing. But like I didn't want this to be like a city where people would live, right? That's not the point of this. It's a proving grounds. It's the kind of thing that you'd see as like a waypoint, or a point of interest on the map. You know, you'd come here and maybe place bets if there was a mod where you could place bets on fights, or you could, you know, do stuff like that. Or even if this was your outpost, right? Like maybe you're living inside that large dome, not dome, the station house in the back there, and you know, this is where you have prisoners come and fight and everything. You know, the idea was that this was going to be like it was a market hub. It's like a cultural hub. It's where people go and they, they spend money, they eat food, they watch combatants fight each other. It's gladiatorial. It's a coliseum. It's meant to keep the people appeased. It's entertainment, and it's also, I think it fits really well in line with what the Shek do. The irony is that the Shek are, based on, more Germanic tribes and stuff like that, whereas you have, the Second Empire, which was based mostly on the Roman Legion, and you'd see that, you'd think that there would be an arena type Colosseum-esque build in the Second Empire, but you never saw that, so kind of off topic. But so yeah, I wanted this to just be like a Colosseum-esque area, though, right? And this is where they would send combatants to fight against powerful beasts and prove their mettle in combat, or just help settle disputes instead of just open combat in the streets, and so, I went to the inside here, I started decorating, and I was like, there should be some terrain changes. I don't want it to just be like an open pit, right? There's buildings, especially because, like, think about it, like, there's, if you have like a martial artist character, right? They are more effective indoors. And so you want to give them the opportunity to, fight where they might be strongest, to be strategic, to be smart. They might lure their opponent indoors where they're going to be at their best. So that was kind of the general thought process that I had when putting those together. And I dropped the Shek statue in the center because, this is a Shek arena. It's a place for these warriors to prove their mettle or to settle disputes. And then I drop a couple prisoner cages and a couple of prisoner poles and a few cages for like animals and stuff, because it's not just about combatants fighting each other, right? Sometimes it'll be settling disputes, like I said. Other times it'll be fighting off prisoners or notable prisoners. Maybe you catch an army, a legion of Holy Nation, a unit of the Holy Nation, and they bring them back here and they toss them in cages, and they go through and they release them, and then the warriors inside have to fight against these Holy Nation captors. I imagine this is what I would imagine the Shek would want to do with somebody like the Phoenix or one of the Inquisitors. Maybe the Phoenix would get a normal execution style type thing, although honestly, I feel like Asada would probably want to fight him just for the sake of fighting him. But, I don't, it provides a good challenge, right? And that's kind of what the Shek are all about. So I drop a couple more prisoner poles, maybe they're tied up around the Shek statue, and they'll get released and they'll fight these Shek who are just trying to prove their mettle, rise through the ranks, become more known amongst the other Sheks. So, and then I drop these animal cages. I try to drop a variety of them, a couple of sizes and stuff. So like I drop a few that were designed for like beak things. I dropped a few that were designed for like bone dogs. I wanted to have like a bit of a variety of possible beasts. I didn't want to overload the place with cages because, again, I want a more open feel so that way people can fight in their preferred environment, but I also want a place to store these beasts, skin spiders and beak things and gorillas and stuff like that. So, things were really starting to come around now that I had the initial plan. So when I was really struggling with the wall, I know that I've brought this up in other build videos, but when I'm really struggling with, like, what am I supposed to do with this particular build? Like, if I'm trying to work on one area of the build, or like one district or one section of the build, and I'm really struggling, I will literally just stop working on it and go do something else, because oftentimes once I get one area that looks the way I want, everything else just kind of comes together, and it goes chef's kiss real fast, right? And suddenly you have this great big idea. So I built this thing, and then I had this really, really nice idea here to drop a throne. So that way the, whether it be Asada or whoever's overseeing this arena, I like the idea that, like, Asada plans these big fights, right, where Shek can come and prove their mettle to the five Invincibles and possibly join them, or join the Shek Kingdom's forces and all that stuff. and they will show up. She'll show up and she'll sit down on her throne, and she'll kind of just she'll watch the fighting from up there. It's not, you know, not really a throne, but you know, her high chair and her overseer's chair, and she'll watch the fighting and watch these warriors fight to earn her respect. So I dropped that there. Drop a couple more ways to get up into the stands, because again, this is a place of entertainment. This is a place for warriors to prove themselves, and they're going to have spectators. Everybody wants to come and see the Sheks fight. And then from there, I dropped another wall, and I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do now. I had, you know, as I decided before, and I had said before, I didn't want this to be a place or like a normal build where people were living, right? This is not a base that you spend your life at. This is a base that you'd stop at as like part of an arena mod or something like that. So I decided to encase the outside in a minor wall and kind of leave areas open on either side, and like leave a segment that kind of wraps around the outer wall while still enclosing it, and have a big gate in the front, and turn this into a real economic hub. So, you know, things like there's bars, there's armor shops, there's weapon shops. This is where you go when you're again, people come here for the events in the arena, but they don't live here. They come here, they drink, they buy things, they spend money, you know, cats they don't have on weapons and armor, and it's like any sporting event. You know, you walk in and you spend way too much money on beer that costs, you know, 5 times what it cost before they took it out of the can and poured it in the solo cup, you know. So and so that was kind of the idea that I had, was that I wanted to create this like sporting event type arena. And so none of the buildings that I placed down are placed down with the intent of self-sufficiency. They're placed down with the idea of, let's jam pack this in a symmetrical aesthetic type of fashion, where these Shek would go and spend their cats and, you know, increase the economy per se, to ultimately just have fun and watch warriors fight and prove themselves in combat. And I think that I ultimately end up doing that relatively well in the end. But so I create these segments of walls, and, you know, things were really starting to come together now that I had a general shape. And so, you know, I do my saving and my reloading to make things persistent, especially because I've moved quite a few buildings manually at this point, so I need the saves, the buildings to be persistent. In order to do that, you have to save and reload. So I keep dropping stuff down, you know, my standard watchtowers in the corner. Love the watchtowers in the corner. It's kind of like my staple. It makes maneuvering on the walls a little bit more difficult to get, yeah, because like you can't round the corner with them, but it just looks good, and also it provides like a nice tower, you know, to shoot off of in the event of invasion, while also still kind of leaning on the aesthetic. So this front gate here, or the front wall, I dropped the full wall, or as close as I could, while still having full segments, because again, lunatic, need to have full segments. So I drop the full segments, I move the wall into position, and it leaves a tiny gap in the center. And I was like, that is way too small to be an entrance. So I ended up nixing the 2 walls opposite, and I created this big open area. And this actually gave me the opportunity to use a section of like a mod that I have never used before, that adds this really cool like gate. And I don't remember what it's called offhand, but you'll see it here in just a minute. There's a specific section of gate that comes with the Forgotten Buildings mod, and it's not even really a gate. It's almost like a walkway that lets you get up on your walls and mount turrets overhead, but it's completely open. It's not like a normal gate. And again, because I don't think this should be a gate, right? Like, this is not. This place doesn't even hold any real strategic value in terms of combat. Like, I don't imagine that the Holy Nation would want to raise this place to the ground, other than just for the fact that they are Shek. But like, there's no strategic value in even attacking this place. Maybe a monetary value, just because of the financial aspect of what's happening here, but no strategic value, you know. And also, this place when this place is populated, it's filled with some of the best warriors in the Shek Kingdom. You know, they're not gonna they're not going to be stupid enough to attack to attack this place when it's literally loaded up with some of the strongest warriors. I mean, it would be foolish. So I drop these walls down, and it's not fully connected. I guess there's like a tiny gap when I'm done, and it's not perfect. This is the first time I've ever used this particular archway, and I really wanted to. The last couple builds that I've done, I've seen it in the menu, and I'm always like, I really want to find like an excuse almost to use that that like entryway, because it's such a unique piece. It's a really unique piece. I deleted the wall here on accident, as I have done several times. But it's just such a unique piece, and so I really wanted the opportunity to use it. So I got it down to where there was just like a very minor gap, and I just moved it so that way that gap, was a little bit on both sides, but it was so small that I could honestly forgive it. It was negligible. And the next thing I was trying to do was get the get it lined up in such a way where it was like, accessible from the walls. And if I recall correctly, I do it, but not totally. The pathfinding towards the end did get a little janky, and I did manage to get them somewhat working. It doesn't work 100% of the time. It works probably like 85% of the time, but it doesn't. It's not the end of the world, because I end up putting up ramps to get up on the primary wall anyway, and then that particular overhang there, it has its own stairway. But I did drop these little pontoon bridges as a way to kind of connect them. I got them into place. I raised them up a little bit and like made them, there and functional to kind of close that gap and help the characters get up onto that wall. So that alleviated some of the pathfinding issues, but they were still there just a little bit. But again, probably like 75-85% of the time it worked. Just every so often characters would get stuck, especially on like reloading. Characters that maybe were up on the overhang there would get stuck. So I drop a couple extra buildings down. Again, these are all shops. These are not places that people live. They're places that people might stay overnight, because I do have a couple of bars. I did imagine that this would be a very merry and festive place. I finagled with the placement of things, because I wanted it to be like it's funny, the building, the base itself should be relatively symmetrical, at least this one. I'm okay with asymmetry on some things, and other things I'm not. It really is situational. The overall shape of the base here is symmetrical, and that was something that I wanted it to be, because it's an arena, right? And so like I felt like it needs to be symmetrical on either side, because there are two sides to this combatant, or at least there's two opposing forces inside. And the idea is that like one opposing force is on one side, one is on the other. And that's not necessarily true because of the way the base is shaped, but like there's a level of it's like a I guess I don't know the word. It's like a psychological thing with the infrastructure itself, right? It doesn't actually serve a purpose, but like it creates this feeling of that split between the two factions. It's almost like symbolic of what's happening in that arena. And so I wanted it to be relatively symmetrical, but I was okay with it not being totally symmetrical in terms of the buildings on either side, as long as the base was the right shape. So, I dropped some ramps to get onto the external walls, or the outside walls. I wanted to make sure everything was accessible, everything was able to get up there. The stands are accessible. And then from here, it was largely just decorating. I started dropping signs, labeling what buildings are what. So I have my bar. I dropped the bar signs and all that stuff, if I recall. Yeah, okay, so it did work. So all the signs worked properly. I thought for a second I had an issue with one of the signs, but no, it's one of the signs I ended up having to manually clip around a little bit because it was like backwards or something, but nothing too major. So I get the signs in place, and they all connect really well. And again, this is a place for shops, and there are people that are camping. So I do end up dropping some like camps and stuff like that, but nothing that would imply this is a place of residence. This is entertainment only. That's what this place is. This is a place where the Shek come to after a long day of performing their jobs, or You know, I mean, it functions like any sporting event would. You know, it's a place of entertainment. No one's living in the Thunderdome or the Megadome. They might be, but that's not really my business. Defense is still a thing. You know, we are housing some very dangerous individuals in these arenas. And so, you know, even in the stands, there will be Shek on guard. You know, these guys they're not playing around. In the event that the warriors inside are maybe overwhelmed and then they try to break free, the guards will, you know, people will man those turrets and they will take them out. And that, honestly, I feel like it's not below the Shek to get the crowd involved in the arena. You know, you heard it here, folks. The beak thing managed to rip through the first combatant and then have the children take the turrets and try their best to hit the beak thing. You know, it's like a game. It's like a carnival game, except with more gore and beak things. So, you know, I just dropped a couple market stalls. Nothing too crazy. I didn't want to clutter it up too bad. A little bit of decorative stuff here and there just to make it feel like people are here. You know, people are camping out. They're cooking food. They're at the bar. They're shopping. They're, you know, there's outdoor stalls. They're chopping up food and meats and stuff like that. And they're, you know, selling skin spider kebabs and just it's a really busy, active, like locale. It's like a local business. So it does need to have a little bit of functionality just for the sake of you know, keeping things running. So there is a well, because obviously everybody needs water to survive. So you know, there is a well. We do have to have power because we have turrets, and we also have, you know, a couple of electrical things. So I drop down my wind generators, get that all set up. Nothing crazy. Again, symmetry, huge thing. And so I have to find, you know, the right placement for everything. But we need the place to be powered. You know, we got those turrets. Those turrets are basically like the first and last line of defense for the combatants or the wild beasts that maybe are entertaining the crowd. So, and then, you know, there is a little bit of mining happening here just for the sake of repairs or, you know, keeping things afloat. You know, you're going to want to pay attention to that stuff. A couple cages outside. Like, I like the idea that there's like animal traders here that are selling like bone dogs, right? You know, like you come to the arena and you watch these beasts fight, and then maybe some of the nomads that delivered these beasts in the first place have them are peddling other animals outside, so you can have a bone dog just like you saw in the arena, you know. And so I thought that was a really nifty idea, a really cool idea, where they're not just selling the weapons and armor and all that stuff, but they're selling the animals that you'd see inside the arena as well. So you can come here and recreate that experience or have like a loyal companion, and, you know, you got to see what that companion could end up becoming in the arena when you watched, you know, that bone dog tear that Shek combatant to shreds, or, you know, the beak thing, you know, gore somebody to death. So that'd be cool. And the other thing too is maybe it's not just Shek in that arena, right? I got a really cool like thought about, like, you could bring Holy Nation in there, right? Tie them up to those poles, put some animals in there, have a couple guys untie them, free up the animals too, run on out, and then you know, the animals will just, like, it's Holy Nation versus animals, or it's bandits versus animals. Like, you could force combatants to fight each other outside of the Shek. Maybe it's not even your guys fighting. Maybe you're watching your enemies fight, making them fight to the death. You know, or even catching multiple types of enemies, like, you know, Holy Nation and we'll say Black Dragon Genin. They're going to go at it. Drop them in there, run out of there, close the gate, and just watch them go. You know, and you're going to want some fast guys with some really, really good athletics, maybe even some cybernetics, working, you know, as the ones that will essentially round up and start this whole debacle and get the fight going. You know, tying people up, untying people, all that stuff. But you know, if you do it right, if you have 3 or 4 of them all working simultaneously, there's no reason that they can't do that and get in and out before there's any real problems. So, but you're going to want experienced staff, you know, per se, doing that. So a couple campfires, a couple outside tents. You know, people are going to be sitting outside. It is dusty. You know, we're in the middle of the Sten Desert. A lot of sandstorms, or dust storms, I mean. And these are all things that they would, you know, want to prep for, hang out, just having a good time. You know, I wanted this to feel like a very like leisurely, fun area. I mean, this is the NFL of the Shek Kingdom. It's the major leagues. This is where the Shek are coming to prove themselves. This is where the family goes to, you know, mom and dad Shek go with their little kid Sheks to show them what warriors look like. And so, you know, they're all sitting around, they're having hot pots, they're joking around, they're all drunk, they're, you know, buying weapons, they're just a great time. So a lot of decorative stuff, nothing crazy. I really didn't want to go overboard with this build. It's kind of a niche one, so like there's not much to it in terms of functionality. It doesn't need to be highly functional because, again, this is meant to be like a waypoint. It's a point of interest. It's the kind of base that you would stumble on, or the kind of outpost that you would stumble on organically in the world, you know. And I thought the idea of having a Shek arena would really fit. So naturally, I drop all of my torches. There is a lot of torches on this one. I tried to put one every corner, every couple of feet in the walls, in a place that made sense, that was, again, uniform, symmetrical, because I'm a lunatic. You know, everything needed to line up well. So I start dropping all my torches, and at nighttime, when, you know, those lights kick on, it, you know, I've seen a few people say it before too, and I've said it in a couple of my other videos, my other build videos, but like, the torches, man, they just have a way of tying everything together. It's just chef's kiss. The minute those torches come on, all of a sudden everything feels so alive, right? It goes from being this collection of buildings to like, holy crap, this is like an actual base. People are here, they're doing things. Like, it feels, just having those like aspects of light make it feel so much more like filled and lively and lived in, you know. So I drop all my torches, and you know, from here I was feeling pretty good. I did a couple of quick inspections to make sure I really liked the way everything looked, but like, I felt good with it. Everything looked solid, and I mean, that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this particular build. It's a little different than the stuff I usually do, but yeah, what else can I say? Cue the montage.
I'm a creature with no skeleton inside your hands. Got no home address, I come and go as you command. And it's fine with me, and it's fine. I'm a bandit that you use to keep from bleeding out. I'm the lover you don't love, but love to keep around. And it's fine with me, promise that it's fine. Maybe I'm a fool. It's not like I'm expecting something new. You need examination. I'll be your medication. Whatever, whenever, I'll never tell you no. I'm a picture on your shelf that some days makes you smile. Then I gather dust and watch you go about your life. And it's fine.